guys, I am so glad that you're listening to this video right now of the lesson. Please make sure you take all the notes and jot down any questions you have so that way when I come back on Monday, I can answer them. We're going to start with a review of long division because it's been a long time. So we start off, that first number that we list is going to be our inside number. And that second number is our outside. And then we say, well, can 7 go into 1? No, it can't. Can 7 go into 16? Yes, it can go in twice without going over. Then we say 7 times 2 is 14. And then we subtract. 16 minus 14 is 2. Then we bring down that 1. And we say, how many times can 7 go into 21? Well, that's 3. So then we have 3 times 7, which is 21. We subtract and we get 0. Then, if we go the route of the next one, we have 5,643 on the inside, 12 on the outside. 12 can't go into 5, it can go into 56 4 times, which is 48. We subtract and we get 6, then we drop the 4 down. 12 can go into 64 5 times. 5 times 12 is 60. 64 minus 60 is 4. We bring down that 3. 12 can go into 43 3 times. 3 times 12 is 36. You get a remainder of 7. When you first started learning, you wrote it as remainder 7. Then you transitioned later to changing to a decimal. What that remainder 7 really means is a 7 out of 12. So a remainder out of what is left or what you were trying to divide it out of it. So that being said, now we're going to get into polynomial long division. These are how your steps will work. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to take that first polynomial that we see and we're placing it inside that division sign. Then we'll place the second polynomial outside the division sign. Then we will divide. One thing you want to make sure is that when you get to that subtraction piece, you're subtracting a polynomial, so you make sure to distribute that minus sign through when you're subtracting. I know that sounds kind of crazy, so we're going to try some examples. Here's one thing you need to make sure of. If your first polynomial that you're putting inside the division sign does not have all descending terms, so like x cubed, then x squared, then x, then a constant, you need to add in the missing terms with 0 times x to whatever power as placeholders, or else you're going to get all screwed up and get confused. So we look at our first example. And we have here the polynomial 6x cubed minus 19x squared plus 16x minus 4, and we're dividing by x minus 2. So we take our 6x cubed minus 19x squared plus 16x minus 4. We put that inside the division bar, and we put x minus 2 on the outside. This is the challenging part. You want to ask yourself, what do I have to multiply this x? Don't worry about the minus 2. It's kind of just along for the ride. To turn into 6x cubed. Well, I need to multiply by 6, and I need 2 more x's, so x squared. Then I say, well, I multiply through. I multiply here, I multiply here, like a distributive property. So 6x squared times x is 6x cubed. 6x squared times negative 2 is negative 12x squared. Here's what I was talking about with the distribution. I am really subtracting all of this. So when I subtract, I have to distribute that negative sign. 6x cubed minus 6x cubed cancels. That's what our point is. Then we really have, and if you need to write it off to the side, negative 19x squared minus a negative 12x squared. And if you remember, we have minus a negative, which means we chunky plus it out. So we're really taking negative 19x squared plus 12x squared, which is negative 7x squared. Now before you go, oh my gosh, you don't get it. That's why we did adding and subtracting polynomials in a previous unit, to remember that you really have to distribute that minus sign to both terms, because it's like a -1. Then we drop down that 16x, so we put plus 16x, and then we start the process over again. What do we need to multiply our x by to get -7x squared? Well, we need to multiply by a -7x because we need one more x. Then I distribute that through. -7x times x is -7x squared. -7x times -2 is plus 14x. We're now going to subtract that whole quantity, so we distribute through. -7x squared minus -7x squared, that's really plus, these cancel. 16x minus 14x is 2x. Alright, last step. We now need to know, what do I multiply x by to get 2x, which would be multiplying by a 2. So 2 times x is 2x. 2 times -2 is -4. As you can see, when we go to subtract, we got exactly what we want. We have 2x minus 4 minus 2x minus 4. So therefore, they all cancel, leaving me with a remainder of 0. All right, we put in our 4x cubed minus 7x squared minus 11x plus 5, and we divide that by 4x plus 5. So now we ask ourselves, what do we have to multiply 4x by to get 4x cubed? Well, I need to multiply by x squared. 4x times x squared is 4x cubed. X squared times 5 is 5 plus 5x squared. And then I'm subtracting that whole quantity. 4x cubed minus 4x cubed cancels. -7x squared minus 5x squared is actually -12x squared. We bring down the minus 11x. Then I want to know, what do I multiply 4x by to get -12x squared? Well, that's -3x. We multiply, we get -12x squared minus 15x. I subtract that whole quantity. We cancel the first terms. Then we have -11 minus -15, which is positive 4x. And then we drop the 5 down, so we have plus 5. That's exactly what we have up there. To turn 4x into 4x, we simply take and multiply by a positive 1. And when we distribute through, we get 4x plus 5. And when we subtract it, we get 0, meaning that x squared minus 3x plus 1 is my answer. And finally, we have x cubed minus 1 divided by x minus 1. So we go ahead and we take x cubed, but now here's what I was talking about. We don't have an x squared, so I put in plus 0x squared. We don't have an x, so we say plus 0x minus 1. And we take x minus 1. We multiply x by x squared to get x cubed. Then we distribute through, we get x cubed minus x squared. I subtract that whole thing. X cubed minus x cubed cancels. And then x squared times -1 is, 0x squared minus -x squared is positive 1x squared, because we're distributing that negative. We drop down the plus 0x. Then to turn x into x squared, we multiply by a positive x. X times x is x squared. X times -1 is -1x. We subtract that whole quantity, and those cancel. And then we have 0x minus -1x, so that becomes positive 1x. We then bring down the minus 1. X times it's 1 gives us x, so then we get x minus 1, and we subtract that whole thing. And we get a remainder of 0, which means that my answer is x squared plus x plus 1. Now some of you might be wondering, well, I didn't see a remainder. If there is a remainder, that's going to be that little bit of extra. The thing you have to remember is we're going to, if there is a remainder, you're going to put it over your divisor, which is this lovely number right here, and you're going to place it as addition onto your answer. So say this had a remainder of 5. That means that I would have said after the x squared plus x plus 1 plus 5 over x minus 1. So, like I said, bring your questions with you to class tomorrow, or sorry, on Monday, and we'll go from there. Thanks for listening and have a wonderful weekend.